There are people who just go through life, and there are people who actually live life. We are going to be talking a little bit about that today with our very first guest.
Welcome to the Family, Health, and Hustle podcast, where sharing our stories, common experiences, and best practices about balancing family, practicing good health, and reaching your goals can help you feel supported, bring clarity, and guide you to the life you want. So if you're ready to challenge yourself, your health, and the hustle around you, then consider this your community. Now, let's welcome your host, Anthony Hernandez.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again this week on the show. Today we have a pretty amazing guest that I was very excited to have join us today. There are people who go through life, and then there are people who live life. And they live life by taking those obstacles and challenges that confront them head on, and they overcome them, and they use them to they adapt to them, and they pull them into their plan, and they make that a part of them, and they start succeeding and winning. And today our guest is someone who I truly think is an example of that. And today we have with us John Aubrey. Now, Johnathan Aubrey is no stranger to obstacles and challenges. He was actually born with cerebral palsy, attended resource and special ed in elementary school, understands what it's like to have more month than there is money, and has experienced being single far longer than he believes one should. Now, despite these challenges, Johnathan graduated from Weber State University with a dual bachelor's degree in economics and English in just 4 years. Johnathan is happily married and has been for 8+ years. He has a small real estate rental portfolio and has recently authored and published his new children's book, Am I Different? So today, I want to say hello and thank you for joining us to Johnathan Aubrey. How's it going, man?
Oh, thank you very much for having me on the show. It's definitely an honor to know that you chose me to be your first guest. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I hope to deliver a high level of value to your audience.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I've known you for a little while, John. I would say I've known you, but I don't really know you, right? I mean, you live in the same neighborhood as my family, and we've, spoken and lightly worked together over the years. But I'm excited to kind of dive in because you've always been someone that has really inspired me. And when I saw recently that you're publishing this book, I said, oh man, this guy, is there anything he doesn't want to do or anything he can't accomplish? And so I said, he needs to be the first guy on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sure a question that is top of mind on your audience might be, what is cerebral palsy? Is it okay if I dive into that real quick?
Yeah, let me ask you this real quick, though. Now, yeah. I've always known you as John, but in your bio it was Johnathan. Which one do you prefer to go by? Does it matter, or what do you prefer?
There was a time that I did care, and I found that most people don't. So I don't know why I should. I just said Johnathan because if they're looking for my book, it says Johnathan Aubrey on it.
Gotcha. Okay. I wasn't sure if you were, you see those entertainers that have their first name, their middle initial, but not their middle name, just the middle initial and their last name, and then their, prefix. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe he's very specific about how he wants it. So
if we were going to go that route, I would have given you 2 middle initials.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, I'll keep calling you John then. But yes, if you're searching for John, it'll be under Johnathan, and we'll go over later on in the show. We'll mention how you can find him. But yes, please, John, go ahead and talk about cerebral palsy.
So real quick, here is a visual of the book, and even though it's not So the book is, we'll get into what the book's about later, but at the very beginning, it states, this book is based on my life experience as a child trying to ride a bike with cerebral palsy. CP is a group of disorders linked to the brain. Cerebral refers to the part of the brain that controls the nervous system, movement, learning, speech, hearing, seeing, and thinking. Palsy refers to the fact that this part of the brain is weak or damaged. People with CP vary in how well they can function, ranging from mild, moderate, to severe. CP is caused by lack of brain development or damage before, during, or shortly after birth. It is not hereditary nor contagious and does not get worse or better over time. So that is the medical definition, and my definition's a little funner. Mine is, the brain is like the latest smartphone on the best network with both caller and receiver standing in the best location. A brain with CP is like using walkie-talkies. 10-4.
10-4. That's a great definition. So, one thing I wasn't aware of, John, is, so you were born with this. I wasn't, for some reason I was thinking, and this is my lack of understanding of cerebral palsy, but was it something, you mentioned that it doesn't get worse over time, so you've kind of had consistent, it's been a consistent challenge throughout your life. It's always been kind of the same thing. It hasn't gotten worse or better. It's just always been kind of the same things that you've been working to overcome.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was a Blazer Scout, so those are 11-year-olds, we were getting ready to go to summer camp. And after we had one of our scout meetings, the scoutmaster asked if he could talk with me.
Okay.
And he told me that I wouldn't be able to go to camp.
Wow.
And instead of asking why, I knew my family was poor. I knew we didn't have money. And so I asked him if that was why, and he saw an easy out, so he said yes. And the reason why I state that is our troops had done fundraisers, and I was very active in the participation of those fundraisers. So
Gotcha.
Money should not have been an issue.
So you think it was, there's some tough conversations. I don't even want to say tough, but there are conversations that people feel uncomfortable having.
Yes.
And maybe rather than using that as a moment to, I would say positively have that conversation, uplift you, he maybe was uncomfortable and just used that as an out, which may have hurt you more in a way.
Well, and to be completely honest, I've been misunderstood many times. Has it ever been detrimental to me? That's the only one experience I can remember where I was opted out of something I should have been able to participate in. But was there a challenge around my cerebral palsy in scouting? Absolutely. When I was a Blazer, so 16, 17, I remember my troop went and hiked the Narrows, And I'm certain we only did 2, maybe 4 miles as I was there. And I was easily I think I was referred to as the cleanest boy in camp.
Really?
And,
Really?
yeah, and that's not because I folded my laundry or was cleaning all my dishes after I ate, or that's because no one fell in the river as many times as I did.
So you took a lot of baths.
I mean, the majority of other people maybe fell once. I
Really?
was falling into that river because of the challenges of walking on loose rocks or just rocks in the river. I lost track. I have no idea how many times. And I was the cleanest boy in camp, and the reason why I mentioned the difference between the two of these is I remember not even a week later, I was at my one of my friend's house, and somehow it came up how one of them was so inspired by how I went through life and how I reacted and did things at that camping trip. And so one of my life mantras is, does the room change the second you walk into it? And is that change a positive or a negative?
That's powerful, John. And one thing I want people to understand too that maybe aren't watching the video, there's going to be things that, we say where, where maybe we're laughing at it, or we're looking back at that experience and thinking, that was an interesting time, or, laughing at the story or whatever. But for those who can't see, John's always smiling on camera. And so, he's someone that has, as I said, he's someone that really has taken these challenges, accepted them, and it's, I'm sure there are very difficult things that he's had to go to, or that you've had to go through, John, but everything I know of you and any conversation I've had, you've always been very positive, to the point where you're very lighthearted about this, and this is part of who you are.
And let's get to the heart of that right there. Yes, there has been some very, very hard times in my life. The lesson or the mantra of, does the room change when you walk into it? I wish I would have learned that a lot sooner than I did. And all the lessons wrapped around the difference between those two scout activities. There are so many lessons there that I didn't learn until I was older. So when I was 32, I still smiled, but I wasn't as happy. Matter of fact, I was pretty miserable.
Really?
Yeah, and the reason why is ever since a young age, 8 years old, 10 years old, I don't know, ever since a young age, I wanted nothing more than to be a husband and a father. And at the age of 32, I maybe could have told you I had a girlfriend once.
Wow.
And so the way I was looking at life, I had just barely bought my first townhome, and I was failing miserably in life. I hated it. Um, I had already graduated from Weber State. I was working as a real estate agent by that time. I've never been wildly successful as a real estate agent. Um, but I mean, it was from 32 to 35 that I had some months I didn't know if I was going to make it because, well, I got a month, maybe 2 months behind on my mortgage a couple times.
Wow. Well, can I say this, John? I mean,
Yeah.
that you know, one thing that we talked about in the show is, you know, the show Family, Health, and Hustle. These are three pillars that I think are pivotal to balancing throughout life, whatever someone's goals are, whatever someone's challenges are. And family is something that I think is especially important because all too often people get tied up focusing on the wrong things and then realize that's not really what brings them happiness, you know. And it's family relationships, and again, not just the nuclear family, but just family type of relationships, whether it's close friends, distant family, you know, romantic relationships, things like that. So I just want to say that, you know, it's kind of a testament to, you know, the type of person you are, because here you are 32 years old, you could be wishing for all types of things, and maybe you were a little bit, maybe not, but the most important thing too was, you know, having a family, you know, being
Right.
married and having a family. And I think that's the, you know, you may not have been able to see it at that point, but you know, now looking back, in retrospect, I mean, that's a powerful thing that you were wanting, and I think it was a good thing.
Right. Well, and so to be completely open and to be able to bring the highest value, um, uh, things things that matter to me may not matter as much to some of the audience, but I believe that answers to our problems come from who we are, what our upbringing is. And so, um, to really explain what the problem was, I believe the reason I wasn't married was because my creator, my maker, cursed me with cerebral palsy.
That's what you believed at the time.
That's what I believed at the age of 32, and that's why I was so miserable. Now, how's someone with that kind of a belief gonna be successful at dating? They're
Yeah,
not.
true.
They're
True.
not. And so it took me 3 years to find the answer, which I found as I was reading religious text. And so I didn't stop dating because at the time my hero was Colonel Sanders.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, well, and the reason why is, do you know how many people he pitched his chicken recipe to?
I don't actually know.
So he pitched it unsuccessfully 1,009 times.
Jeez.
1,009 times. And then he met a guy by the name of Mr. Harmons in Utah. And Mr. Harmons, 1,010, said yes.
Wow.
And so the first 3 KFCs are in Utah. And Colonel Sanders is the #1 most recognizable face.
Really? That's interesting. Well, and I
Yeah.
know one of the, you know, for those who don't know, we live in Utah. We come from Utah here,
Right.
and you know, I know one of those first locations is right down there in State Street on downtown, right?
Oh, yeah, it's one of my favorite locations. State Street and 39 South, and they have memorabilia there.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was bulldozed and rebuilt, but they have memorabilia. So, and the other part is, so he was told no 1,009 times. Oh, my goodness, I can go on 1,009 dates. That'll be fun. Being told no and I gotta move on, that's not fun. But the dates themselves, that's fun. And my goodness, there's got to be some girl out there that's gonna find me a lot better tasting than a bucket of KFC.
That's an interesting analogy there, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Or what I meant is they'll find that I'm a lot more finger looking good than fucking kid. Anyway, with that being said, even though I had that mentality, until I fixed the thought that my cerebral palsy was a curse from God or from my maker, then I would have definitely gone through 1,009 dates because my basis was off. Mm-hmm. And so I was reading in some religious text, and here's what I read. It says, "And if men come unto me, I will show unto them their weakness. I, being God, I give unto men weakness." And when I read that part right there, that hit me. Help me so much. It continues on. We will come back to that part because that part, in my mind, is one of the most important parts. I give unto men weakness, that they may be humble, and my grace is sufficient to all men and women that humble themselves before me. For if they humble themselves before me and have faith in me, then will I make weak things become strong unto them.
Wow.
And so, I mean, there's a real big question there. If I'm humble and I turn to God, I still have cerebral palsy. So how on earth is that going to be a strength? You're telling me that I'm going to love cerebral palsy? Yeah, actually, I do. But that's because I understand my maker, and he understands me. And what I mean by that is it says, I give unto men weakness. And any time something is given, it's a gift. And I is God or deity. That means it's a divine gift.
So God has given you something that maybe in our perspective, whether it's for you or for anyone listening, in our perspective, we're thinking this is a curse. But ultimately, maybe, just maybe, it's a tool to help us, find or accomplish maybe not exactly what we wanted, but to accomplish what I think all of us want, which is to find, a version of peace and joy and acceptance, self-acceptance, things like that. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. So what has been shared with me by one of my mentors, George Morse, who's the owner of Century 21, where I've worked for years and years, he has shared time and time again that fulfillment comes from two things. You have to have them both, because if you have just one, you'll be miserable. And one of them is growth, development, improvement, and the other one is contribution or giving. And so when you have both of those, you're going to have fulfillment. And I've jumped the gun because what we just mentioned that was very profound is how many times do people say life ain't fair or the deck is stacked against me?
Yeah, I hear it all the time.
I've been set up. And here's the truth. We absolutely have been set up. Unbelievably set up, and it's in our favor.
That's awesome.
So when I believe that I was cursed by my maker, and that's why I had cerebral palsy, oh my gosh, I've been set up as a doozy. Life was extremely miserable for 3 years. And I had developed some habits that I wish I never had because I was miserable. And I didn't want, I just want peace, I want comfort. I was accepting counterfeits when if I had been willing to rely on my God and my Maker, I could have had true joy.
And John, I think taking this, obviously there's some powerful, this whole experience that you're talking about is very powerful, especially for those who are religious and those who believe in God or a deity. But, even taking it further out of that, we live in a time where so many people are not happy, but one of the things that is being spread is that you have these challenges, whatever they are, and there's nothing you can do about it. But like you said, the deck stack against you, the system's against you, whatever it is, there's nothing you can do about it. And I feel like, those people are doing themselves a disservice, and it's not always their fault. It may be things that have been fed to them, but they're doing what you did, during that time, is you're kind of going.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they're retreating, and like you said, they're looking for ways to experience joy through counterfeit measures that don't last, measures that might ultimately be worse for them, because no one's told them that, hey, look, life's not perfect. You're right. There are going to be challenges. There's going to be things against you, but you have to keep going because you can overcome that. It doesn't matter what you're going through. You can overcome that and experience the real things that offer joy and the real things that offer fulfillment. And to your point about growth and giving back, think about that. Most people who go and they retreat into that corner and they feel like everything's against them, what's the point of growth? What's the point of giving back? That's the kind of things that go through me. So I think this is really, I think you're 100%. This is great.
Well, and yes, in life we experience mortality, which means we're going to experience imperfections. So sure, life isn't perfect, and yeah, life is. It absolutely is. And so I'm showing how miserable, or talking about how miserable I was and the things I went through, shows that I absolutely was set up in the wrong way. The truth is once I learned that it was a divine gift, I was set up in completely the opposite direction. And what I mean by that is once I learned that truth, I had to share it. And I've spoken at real estate companies, I've spoken at elementary schools and college institutions. I've spoken one-on-one, and I've spoken with an in-person audience of around 800. And when I first started speaking, I would share this story of how I learned to ride a bicycle. And the whole reason this book exists is because I'd have adults come up to me afterwards and say, I wish my kids could have been here to hear your story. And so I knew I had to write a children's book. And I did. But the purpose, or the reason I'd share that story is I'd ask everyone after I share that story, how many of you find this to be inspirational? And nearly everyone's hand would be raised. Nearly everyone's.
That's awesome.
So let me ask you this right now. And you said up front that you find me to be inspirational, but who is someone else in your life that you find to be inspirational?
You're asking me to...
Mom, dad, aunt, uncle. Who's someone else that you found to be inspirational?
You know, there's a gentleman in my neighborhood, and he doesn't know this because I've never shared it with him, but I do want to share it with him one day. But he has several children, all boys, and a couple years ago, his wife passed away from cancer.
Oh my goodness.
I believe it was cancer. It was before I had actually moved into this neighborhood. And I've always seen him as inspirational because he seems, from where I stand, to always try to do what's right. And what I mean by that is when things like that happen, someone could curse God, like you said, curse God, why was this against me? But it almost appears, from what I know of him, that he's doubled down. He right. Continues to be religious, continues to bring his boys to church, and just does the best he can. And I've never heard him complain. I think people have reached out and said, do you need help with anything? He says no. Just someone that is trying to do what's right. And like I said, he's inspiring to me because I look at that and I go, how easy would it be to look around and say, frankly, say, screw all this. You know what I mean? But instead.
So with that being said, if you had a deeper relationship with this individual, when life deals you challenges, would he be someone that you'd want to go and...
Oh, I think 100%, whether it's, mentorship is so important, whether it's with challenges, business, fitness, whatever, to have someone that is standing there helping guide you, saying, hey, I've been through this, or I've been through something similar, it's going to be okay. Here's things you can do to help, come to accept this, or come to get to a position where you can get through this. I think 100%. I think that is the power of a community as well, because I think all too often people, when something's going wrong, and you tell me, John, if this happened to you, when you were 32 years old, like a lot of times, and even in my life, I don't have cerebral palsy, but in things that I've been challenged with, my first thought is I'm alone. And that's probably the wrong thought to have, because there's other people out there that can help.
Well, even if we are the only one, there is a reason. And so the reason I asked you who it is that you find inspiring is to build the case that we are set up. So after I share my story, after I ask everyone if they find this to be inspiring, I would then ask them who they know that's inspirational, and I'd ask them to share with me about that person. And after doing that hundreds of times, here's what I've learned. Number one, people that are inspiring have an obstacle, a challenge, something. Number two, they overcome it. Number three, other people have intimate knowledge about them overcoming it. And number four, more often than not, they have a very happy disposition. And not always, but it came up enough that I'm going to mention number five. They are eager to help out other people.
Would it be correct in saying, John, that, for those first 32 years of life, I would imagine that when you're 32, it was a culmination, right? It was probably many years of being discouraged or things that maybe you felt like you couldn't get ahead in.
The majority of my life, I didn't care. I just hanging out, having fun with everyone else.
And it was just that period of time where it was.
But I wanted to be married. I dated. I thought I was doing absolutely everything it took to get married. And I couldn't get past 4 dates with anyone. 4 dates was the most I'd ever had.
So let me ask you this. When you had, during that time when you kind of had a shift in your mindset, I'll call it a recalibration of your own value and the value of this cerebral palsy, having that challenge, going forward from there,
how
did life start to change? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. How did life change and lead you to find your wife?
Well, I mean, before then, I'd have my mom say, "Hey, I want to set you up with someone," I'd say, "Heck no, that ain't gonna happen." But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So I said, okay, what are the things I need to change? And one of those things was if anyone said, "Hey, John, I want to set you up," the answer was yes. Every single time. I didn't care. The answer is yes. And another thing, if a friend called me up Friday, Saturday night, said, "Hey, John, I'm going to this thing. You want to come?" It didn't matter how fun Texas Hold'em was on my phone. The answer was yes every single time. It didn't matter if I wasn't feeling like being social. And from the time that I read that passage and I came to the understanding that it was a divine gift, within under a year, I'd been asked out. Not me asking them out. I'd been asked out by women 4 times in 1 year. And up until the age of 32, it had only happened twice ever.
Wow. Well, you touched on 2 really important things that we've talked about in previous podcasts. And one of them is self-reflection. right? So during this time of the change in mindset, you self-reflected, like, okay, like you said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So you sat down and you thought about that and say, okay, well, how can I change this? This strategy is obviously not working out for me. So how can I change that? And then the second thing that you touched on that we actually spoke about in last week's episode is, when we say no, who knows the opportunity that we are turning away from, whether that's whether it's just hanging out with friends or going out to certain areas, or in business or fitness, different goals. When we say no, and sometimes we have to, sometimes there's power in saying no, but I think we all too often default to no. But when we say yes, huge opportunities can await us.
Well, and if you want different results, you got to do different things. I don't know if I drove the point home or not, but we are set up constantly. And what I mean by that is cerebral palsy is not my only obstacle. It's not my only challenge. I mean, writing this book, I'd wanted to do that for years and years. And I thought, it's going to take a lot of money. I better flip some homes. And the time I did it was bad timing. I lost far more money than I started with. And I said, forget it. I'm writing the book. We're going to have challenges, whether it's relationships, financial, physical, you name it, we're going to have challenges. And if we act correctly to them, if we overcome them, we are being set up to be inspirational, and people will flow to us instead of away from us.
I think that's a powerful statement right there. If there's the law of attraction, right? People believe there's a law of attraction. The more good you put out, the more that comes your way. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Now, there might be different ways at looking at that. Again, spiritual, physical, astronomical, whatever. But I think that is a fact of the universe, and a fact of growth is exactly what you just said. The more we put out, and the more good we do, the more people that will be attracted to us, and I think the more opportunity will arise.
And the biggest component for that is, are we happy, and how do we deal with our challenges? Because if people can see they're going to experience happiness, joy, excitement, even when going through challenges, when they're around us, boom, law of attraction.
That's awesome. John, I wanted to ask you one thing. I didn't know this about you, but I saw on your social media that, are you a foster parent?
Again, challenge. My wife and I, yes, we know how to have high-level conversations. And sometimes that's not fun. If you have marriage, you absolutely should have a marriage counselor. But we've been married happily for over 8 years. And the only way we are going to have kids in our house, my wife isn't ready for adoption. And so, yeah, we are foster parents.
And I hope you don't mind me bringing that up. I know I didn't mention that when we called before, but I only bring it up because I think that just adds to the type of person you are, because that is something that I think is making a huge difference. Despite your, the personal reasons why you might do that, I think the impact not only are you having with people you speak to, but now these children that you're bringing into your home, again, it just goes along with everything you're saying is like when you're doing good and now you're bringing others into your home and showing them, teaching them these principles and I don't know, man. That might be the most powerful thing you're doing, in my opinion. And I didn't know that till recently. And like I said, I apologize for not bringing that up before the recording, but I saw that and I said, this is something else I love about John.
When you and I first met, my wife and I were not to that point. And so we've only been doing foster care for 2 years now.
Gotcha.
And yes, I started speaking on winning despite obstacles as soon as I learned the power of that, and that we are all set up for greatness. And I believe that the world will change in a monumental, a huge way if we all will act in inspiring ways. And so is my life going to be super easy? Yeah, absolutely. All I got to do is find how is this going to be a winning situation.
Yeah.
The power and the depth of our lives is going to be determined by the quality of our questions. If we're, and don't get me wrong, I've asked myself stupid questions lots of times. Why is this happening to me? Stupid question. Am I the only one? Not a high quality question.
Mm-hmm.
How is this going to be a winning situation? High quality question. And honestly, sometimes the answer isn't going to come for a while. Sometimes the answer just ain't going to come for a while. There is something I am now focusing on that is pure gold to me. And that is, what are the compensatory rewards or blessings that are going to come out of this? And compensatory means that it may take time. The rentals I bought, I don't have a lot of them. I wish I had a lot more. My wife and I, we have 2 rental properties, a 6-plex and a duplex.
That's awesome. I mean, that is more than most people.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean, it's awesome.
For sure. And with that being said, were they great investments the day I bought them? Yeah, sure. The 6-plex, not so much. I had to pay the mortgage on that one out of my pocket for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Well, the rents took care of repairs from neglect from the previous owner. And so that thing was a drag for 6 months. Now, is it a drag occasionally? Yeah, probably 2 months out of the year it's a drag. But every other month, the nut is covered and I get some cash in my pocket.
That's because you have is it fair to say you have a long-term goal?
Right.
You're looking at the big picture, not the now. And sometimes, like we've been talking about,
Right.
when you're in the meat of the challenge, sometimes you're not looking at the big picture, just looking at the now.
And if I were to sell it, I'd be walking away with a lot more than I started out with. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say compensatory blessings. My foster kids, oh my goodness, they're amazing in both directions. I mean, the joys, the laughter, it was there. The trials, oh yeah, for sure, it was there.
Yeah.
But, and yes, they've gone back to live with their biological mother, and that truly could have been devastating. Could have been. And carrying their belongings from their bedroom to my car, their belongings didn't weigh that much, but oh my gosh, that was heavy. But with that being said, because my focus is compensatory blessings or compensatory rewards, I'm wondering, what is it going to be like 15, 20 years from now if I still have a relationship with them? And I mean, I didn't know the joy of birth because I didn't even know them 12 or 10 years ago when they were born. But I mean, how valuable is your relationship with your mom and dad now as compared to when it was when you were 5 and 6?
I think obviously some families are different and some aren't perfect. I mean, well, no family is perfect, but some are, they don't have great relationships. But I think for me specifically, I would say my relationship with my parents it's different than they were when you're 5 and 6. Back then it was, there's a difference between they're my caregiver and now to be more of more my friend. Still my parent, but more of a friendship relationship. There's more trust. Well, it's not that there's more trust. There's a different type of trust.
No, there's more trust for sure because now that you have kids of your own, I'm guessing now you can see a lot more value of what your parents did for you.
100%.
And a lot more sacrifice and a lot more everything.
Yeah.
And so the relationship evolves and changes, and just if we're in the perspective of here and now, and don't get me wrong, I get sucked into that all the time. The challenges are going to be a lot more difficult than if we're in the viewpoint of compensatory blessings and compensatory rewards.
Amen to that, man. I think a lot of our challenges, if we push through them hard, they'll be, a small moment in our story, and we'll look back and actually be grateful for them because that's what shapes the overall story.
Right. Right.
So let me ask you this, John. I know we've been talking for a little while here, but I really want to know what is next for Johnathan Aubrey, because you obviously have a great outlook on life. Like I said, I look up to you because of your positivity, and this conversation has just made me look up to you even more as to how you see these situations and see obstacles that you are confronted with and that you commit to winning. What's next? Do you have a big goal next that you're going to try to go after that, we'll have to have another interview in 6 months and I'll be like, Johnathan, you're running for president now or whatever.
Well, I did want to be president at one time, but honestly, that is, I am still looking for family. I love my wife. She's amazing. The foster kids we've had in our home, that's fantastic. I'm still looking to increase family and to have deep family relationships, and I got things I'm working with brothers, sisters, in-laws, outlaws on increasing relationships that wise. The big thing right now is, am I different? My web page should be up and running middle of January probably, and the web page is winning despite obstacles. I believe that through this book and other books that I will be writing and having coming out, I believe that God set me up to be a major broadcasting of creating inspirational people and winning despite obstacles, which that will be my website, winningdespiteobstacles.com. That will be coming out in January, and we will be so just to in the first part of this book, it says, I wrote this book to help companies, organizations, and the rising generation create a culture where doing hard things is the norm and inspiring people is a natural occurrence.
That's awesome. Amen.
Yeah.
John, thank you so much for joining today. Where will your book be exclusively available through your website, Winning Despite Obstacles, or will it be on Amazon, or where can someone find it?
I'm debating that question heavily.
Okay.
It definitely will be available on the website.
Okay.
With the way you can do advertisements on Facebook, Instagram, social media, there's a heavy debate as to whether I use Amazon or not, and
Gotcha.
so I definitely want it available.
I ask, it's more selfish for me asking because I actually I want to purchase it. I'm not sure. I know you have a big order coming in. For those who are listening, John's launch party is this Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll definitely get you a copy. That won't be a problem.
Awesome.
The launch party is going to be phenomenal. If I am not on Amazon and my website's not up yet, which is short term, just PM on Facebook, and we can through Venmo and other means we can take a payment and mail you a book.
Perfect. And John's website or John's Facebook is just at Johnathan.Aubrey. So facebook.com/Johnathan.Aubrey. So John, thank you so much for being here. I liked you before we started this call. I think I like you even more now. You seriously have a great story. I think that your purpose in creating the book and writing the book is something that will echo far beyond beyond what either of us can see, whether it be in distance or in time. And so
Right.
thank you so much for being here. Everyone, this is Johnathan Aubrey, the author of the new children's book, Am I Different? Keep an eye on him. Check out familyhealthandhustle.com. We'll post his links and his bio there. John, thanks so much for joining us, and I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Doing a podcast is no small thing. Everyone wants to do one, myself included, but you actually are. So thank you so much for having me on board, and this was fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks, man.
Thank you for joining in today, because pursuing a balance between family, health, and hustle, it can feel a little wacky sometimes. So we need to learn from each other. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. In the meantime, download our free ebook, 6 Secrets for Success, at familyhealthandhustle.com. And remember, we're on this journey together.